Hi there, my name is Hans van Dam. I'm one of the founders at RoboCopy and the Conversational Academy, and I'm going to be talking about conversation design, and particularly how conversation design also changes in the enterprise. So how do you go from a team of just one person trying to design a chatbot to a team of 50 people that are working 24/7 around the clock to design and deploy and manage AI assistants? So I'll start sharing my screen here. I think you all might know this. It's from the movie Her, and Her really takes place in the near future. And it's about a guy that buys an AI assistant. He installs it on his computer and he starts interacting with it, right? At first it's a little awkward, but then, they get familiar with each other and they start talking to each other and they become friends. And before you know it, they become very best friends and actually fall in love. But then he discovers that she's talking to tens of thousands of people at the same time. And he drops out because it's the uncanny valley experience that he has. So he drops out and wants nothing to do with it. But it sort of shows you that humans and AI, we will be living together, we will be working together, so we need to learn to communicate with each other. All right, so we're going to have a new job, a very important job, and that's the role of the conversation designer. And what we do at the Conversational Academy is really recognize, develop, and promote the role of the conversation designer through training, certification, and obviously consultancy to support you with that. And we've been able to put together a human-centric design process that we can train on, that we can certify on, and that really helps enterprises scale from 1 or 2 designers up to a team of 50 plus people, following a very simple step-by-step workflow that is going to guarantee human centricity, but also unlocking the potential of conversational AI technology. And what we see with our enterprise clients around the world, and it's the same everywhere, is that it usually starts with one bot, often in customer service, right? That bot gets a little smarter, and people get excited about it. So other departments want bots too, right? So you have like a bunch of bots going on, and then one person stands up and says, let's be mature about this, let's organize this, let's create one centralized department that's going to run our AI assistants, right? And that's being figured out. And what we do is really figure out, who's going to be working on that department, what's the skill set that they need, and how can we develop course materials to get people ready for that. And once you've set up that department, then you can create that hub and spoke model that really allows you to enable different countries, languages, brands within your organization as well. But what is conversation design really? That's the big question, right? For us, it's this, right? If we have an artificial brain communicate with a human brain, then we need to understand both the artificial brain and the human brain. So we need to understand technology and psychology and language, and they're all equally important. We want to understand the limitations and capabilities of the AI brain, and what triggers it needs to function. So it needs to understand intent, entities, context, and variables. Well, we obviously have great natural language understanding technology for that. And then on the other hand, when we have a human, we need to understand what the human needs and what the limitations and capabilities are, right? So people need empathy and guidance and compliments, a pat on the shoulder. And natural language creation needs to take care of that. And if we ever want to have proper conversations between humans and AI assistants, then natural language creation needs to be equally important as natural language understanding. So technology, psychology, and language, they're equally important. And if you look at most teams right now, you will have 10 engineers for one conversation designer, but we would like to see a better balance of that. And we've even sort of created different certificates and different job titles that you can have in a department. So we've got AI trainers that focus on, training the model and implementing the dialogues and optimizing it. They've got the conversation designers that focus on structuring conversation, that focus on flow, and they've got the conversational expert that focus on tone of voice, personality, and psychology. But what are conversations really? Well, there's a very silly joke. 2 fish swimming in the water. They stumble upon this third fish and they're like, hey, how you doing? Isn't the water lovely today? The fish says. And the other 2 look at each other and they're like, What the hell is water? Because fish don't know about the water, right? They have no idea about the water because they're surrounded by water. It's all they ever know. And it's the same with people in communication, right? We communicate all day long, and we do this our entire lives. And we're using all these advanced techniques that we're not really aware of. And a lot of it is nonverbal. So when we're not aware of it and we start designing chatbots and other types of AI assistants, we lose a lot of that communication, right? So we need to much better understand how humans communicate, deconstruct that, and then apply the same principles very effectively when we're designing for AI assistants. So Paul Greisy sort of launched the idea of the cooperative principle, and it really just means that people feel responsible to creating good conversations. They want to cooperate with the other person they're talking to. And they do this by providing the right amount of information. They're truthful. What they say is being relevant to the conversation. They adjust their tone of voice. And to humans, this comes very natural. It's very simple. We don't even think about it. But for bots, for AI assistants, this is complicated. You need to be aware of that when you want to deploy AI assistants. So people, we tend to skip steps, right? So our AI assistant says, you can pay using PayPal or credit card. Do you want to pay? I'll use MasterCard. Right? Don't expect a yes or no answer to a yes or no question, because that's not how people communicate. We provide information that wasn't asked for. How many rooms are in your house? Well, let's see. There's a living room, 2 bedrooms, a kid's room, there's a kitchen, a bathroom. Your AI assistant is just waiting for a number, right? So how do you deal with this? Well, most teams will actually create a list of all the different rooms that are out there, and they'll create synonyms for that, right? And it's a nice little project, and it takes about 2 weeks to train the model. But if you've got a conversation designer on your team, it's actually much simpler. So your voice assistant says, how many rooms are in your house? Well, let's see, there's a living room, 2 bedrooms. Sorry, how many rooms is that? And you're forcing your user to give you a number, right? So by understanding the psychology, we can use language to make the technology work better. And that's how these three always play together when we're designing for AI assistants. So we've put together a process that's going to help you do this and be better conversation designers. Because there are 3 mistakes that are always being made by every team around the world. So starting with technology, just build without thinking about people. Or focusing on knowledge management, right? We're so used to giving the complete answer, the full answer, that we create cognitive overload because we share too much with people, and it just freezes people up. Or we start with the business process. We look at how are things organized in the organization. We put that in a flow chart. We ask a writer to turn the lorem ipsum into whatever he feels it needs to be, and then we go live with that. But people don't talk the way your organization, the way your business is organized, right? I know they should, but they don't. So that doesn't work either. So the process is actually quite simple. And first, there's the requirements phase, and then there's happy conversation design and detailed conversation design. And really, we see teams work, going from happy to detailed. So you do 1 sprint, happy conversation design, 2nd sprint is detailed conversation design. And you follow the steps, and that, allows you to be successful. It also allows you to scale the team, because having a clear workflow makes it easy to onboard new designers. So in the requirements phase, before starting a project, we sort of look at the tech landscape that the organization has. We look at, the operations, what type of use cases that are out there, and the type of conversations that we might be having. Then we look at the user personas, to figure out who we're actually going to be having these conversations with. And then our bot persona is really, who's going to be having these conversations on our behalf. How do we create a personality for our brand that makes sense to, in relation to what our users want to achieve? So when you design a bot personality, right, this is something that's very important. You see the cute face there, right? You see the cute face in this building. It's called Pareidolia. And what it means is that people have this tendency to see human traits in things that clearly aren't human. It's spectacular. We all see this face, yet we all know it's not human. This one's cute. And when we hear a voice, within 1.5 seconds, we create an image of who that voice belongs to. Is it a man or a woman? Where is he or she from? What do they look like? How can they be valuable to me? And all of that. So we start creating these personalities, these images in our brain, and we cannot turn that off. So if you got 1,000 or 1,000,000 people interacting with your AI assistant, they're all going to be doing that. And that makes it very difficult, to create a consistent experience. So we want to very carefully design a bot personality and carry that out consistently to make sure that people all have the same experience and that we get some control over whatever happens in their brain. Because otherwise it's going to be inconsistent, less likable, and less trustworthy. And that's obviously not what we want. We'll end up in the uncanny valley. And what it means pretty much, right? If a bot, an AI assistant is very mechanical, then it's okay, then we like it. If it's very human-like, then we like it too. But if it's sort of in the middle and we're not really sure what it is, that's when we drop out. Like the movie Her. It has to do with the fact that you use a different part of your brain when you interact with something than when you interact with someone. And there's conflict in your brain when it's not really sure, and it creates a very uncanny feeling, and people will not return to the experience. So here's the happy conversation design part. And this is what we like to see teams use over and over again. It's a step-by-step process that if you've got the right people and you've trained them, they can just go through this. So we take a use case, and then we look at the bot needs and the user needs, right? So we look from the user's perspective. We look at, what do they want? What do they want to know? What do they expect from the AI assistant? What motivates them? What are some of the anxieties that they might have? And from the bot's perspective, we look at what's information that I need to give, what's stuff that I already know, what's behavior that I want to encourage and what's behavior that I want to discourage, right? And once we sort of figure that out, and I'll show you a canvas on the next slide, how we do that, we'll do something called sample dialogue, where we role play. And one person's going to be playing the user, and the other one's going to be playing the bot. And they sit back to back from each other, and they just have the conversation. Once we have that natural structure of the conversation, that's when we start developing flowcharts. We do an expert rewrite to just polish it up, and we do Wizard of Oz testing to validate it with users. So this is the canvas that we use. Where is a human most likely to be when they engage with your AI assistant for this use case? Are they going to be alone, or is there people around them? Are they in a rush? What do they want to do? What do they want to know? What motivates them? What do they worry about? What do they expect? And what do they feel when they reach out to talk to your AI assistant? And from the bot's perspective, it has certain superpowers and certain responsibilities, because obviously with great power comes great responsibility. And this is really the briefing that you're going to give to people. And they sit back to back from each other so that they cannot see each other, and they have nothing but their voice, the bare minimum to communicate. And they'll just role play. And whatever the user says, we'll think, is that something that more people would want to know? And if that's the case, why not proactively say that? All right? And by reaching such a great understanding of the human, we can actually have empathy in the conversations. And if we have empathy in the conversations, then they will follow along with your AI assistant, and you will see a higher completion rate. And then we can very quickly, once we have that dialogue, validate it through Wizard of Oz testing, right? So you want to test it in an early stage here. And you don't have to deploy anything in Rasa yet. You can just copy paste the prompts that you've written and paste them in WhatsApp and get feedback that way. So, your test panel can just type freely and you just respond what the bot would respond. And you get feedback very quickly. 5 to 10 people is usually enough to sort of know where you're at. And then we got detailed conversation design, right? So once we validated the design, we're going to start training our model. We're going to see when we hand it over to an agent or to the website or to an app or whatever it may be. We think about repair messages, and then it's really about deploying it and iterating based on top of it. And what we see, the benefits of this human-centric design process is that empathy helps with, you're going to save cost implementing it, because you're going to be much more conscious about what you're actually deploying. You're going to save time optimizing because you have much better understanding of why you did things the first time, right? You're going to see a higher completion rate and a higher NPS score or CSAT, whatever you're measuring. People will have a better experience. All right, so let's look at some of the copywriting techniques that I can walk you through real quick. In general, write conversational, obvious, right? Please state your last name. That becomes what's your last name. Which gender are you? Is it Mr. or Mrs. Bro? Or which traditional gender stereotype do you feel most comfortable subscribing to? We don't really know anymore, right? What to say. Cooperative principle is the engine of communication. Turn taking is the gearbox. It's what keeps us going as conversationals. Can you order me a cab? Sure. Where do you want to go? Starting fee is $7.50. I can calculate the total cost when I know your destination. So this is very bad design. And why is that? See, he's confused as well. We want to make sure that the user understands when it's his turn to speak. Can you order me a cab? Sure. Where do you want to go? Lights plan. Costs about 25 euros. Is that okay? So we keep it very simple and short, and we always end with a question, because then the user knows it's their turn to speak. In the initial example, we ask a question, but then we continue to talk. That's very frustrating. Sometimes you have that when you're talking to someone on the phone, and you're not really sure whose turn it is to speak, so you both start speaking at the same time, right? But you go first. We all know how that is now with all these Zoom calls that we're doing, right? And then there's a thing called the explicit confirmation, right? Do you have room for 4? You would like to pick a table. Is that correct? So we do that when confidence is low in our recognition, or when we're talking about something emotional, or when we talk about money. The implicit confirmation, on the other hand, is more efficient, but we need to have a higher confidence score in order to use it. I would like to book a table. Sure, that's an acknowledgement. I can book you a table. That's an implicit confirmation. What time should I book it for? Tonight, right? So here you see all these little design components that you just need to learn, and then you can apply them effectively. So where are we actually going to be deploying these AI assistants, right? We always like to use this model. It's created by Bill Price, who was the first VP of customer service at Amazon. And he says there's stuff that's valuable to the customer, but not so much to the business, and the other way around. If we both don't care for it, we eliminate it from the process altogether. But if it's valuable to the customer, but not so much to us, we want to automate it. These are your typical customer service queries. And on the other hand, stuff that's valuable to us, but not so much for the user or the customer, we want to keep that very simple, right? And that's what we can use AI assistants for as well, to remove barriers. The difference between the two, however, is that at the bottom right, you're dealing with motivated users. And at the top left, you're dealing with unmotivated users, so you're going to be using different copywriting techniques. If it's valuable to both, we obviously still want to talk to them, right? If somebody wants to buy an expensive product, we'll hop on a call with them. So what are some of the copywriting techniques that you can use to increase motivation? Do you ever think about the future? Yes, no, sometimes, right? The idea is that if you launch a question like this on a website, it's easier to answer the question, just click away the screen. And once they answer the question, the cooperative principle kicks in, and they feel responsible. They want to cooperate, and they want to have a good conversation with you, provided you design well. With the exceptional benefit, want to get a discount by answering a few simple questions? Yes, no, tell me more. Right? This is old school copywriting that you can use in AI assistants. Or choice architecture. Want to know how to win friends and influence people? Of course, yes, maybe no. Right? Providing people with more positive options greatly increases the odds of them selecting a positive option. Or small commitments. Want to answer 3 simple questions? Yes. When people say yes 3 times in a row, it increases the odds of them giving a positive answer on the 4th question. So if you have a big question to ask, then this is how you prepare users for that. So if you look at this prompt, it shows you just how much design there is to learn about conversational AI and AI systems. Okay, to lock in the order, I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions. For most people, this only takes a minute. Does that sound good? Okay is an acknowledgement. To lock in the order is an implicit confirmation. Does that sound good is a prompt. It's good turn taking. That's conversation design fundamentals. Then there is psychology. right? There's social proof, there's expectation management, there's the reward afterwards, and there's choice architecture, right? And this is just one message in an AI assistant. So think about how much design you can do. And sure, if you're deploying your first chatbot just as a POC, then it's, don't worry about it too much. Just get it going, focus on the fundamentals. But if you've got a team set up and you really want to get value from AI assistants, then this is the stuff you need to be thinking about, because this is really going to unlock the potential of this technology. So we have online courses. Obviously, we have consultants that are happy to work with you. You can just go to our website, conversationalacademy.com. But I think there's one thing that's more important that I want to talk to you about briefly, and it's our conversation design manifest that we're drafting now, and we're co-authoring it with the industry. And the too long, didn't read version of it is that we see a conversation design community that is incredibly fragmented. There's different job titles. Nobody really knows what their responsibilities are. You've got flow designers, UX writers, chatbot copywriters, VUI designers. There's so many titles out there, and we're all working on the same problem. It's very fragmented, and it's preventing the conversation design industry to move forward. So what we want to do is really align on workflow, align on job titles and responsibilities, because it's going to be so much easier to find the right designers, to onboard the right designers, and to get value from the technology much and much faster. So if you want to get on board with us or just learn more about the manifest, then please shoot me an email at hans@robocopy.io. You can contribute, you can just support it or spread the word, but we really want to recognize that role of the conversation designer and move that industry forward together. And ultimately, advance trust and communications between humans and AI through conversation design, right? So this is the workflow that we know works at enterprise level for your first project or at scale when you're designing with 50 people. And these are really the roles that we promote when we have an AI trainer that focuses on the technology, on training the models, on going over the data to optimize and find room for improvement. Then you've got the conversation designers that turn knowledge and complexity into nice flows and human-centric interactions. And then you've got these experts that focus on really understanding human behavior and applying psychology and bot personality to create AI assistants that are more helpful, more useful, and more pleasant to talk to. So thank you for your time. I'll be around for questions. Reach out, feel free to do so. We're easy to find, and we're also always happy to learn about your experiences, particularly at the enterprise level, where we try to develop these course materials for. So thank you so much, and I'll see you around.